Welcome to Sports Management Podcast, where you will hear interesting sports management professionals share their stories, experiences, and passion for the sports management industry. I am your host, Marcus Philipson. Welcome to episode 105 of Sports Management Podcast. Before we start, I just want to ask you all for a very small favor. If you like this podcast, please subscribe to it on Spotify and Apple and give it a 5-star rating. It would help me very much in getting it visible to more people out there. Thank you. Moreover, this episode is sponsored by InSport Education, the online business school for sport. The best way to elevate your sports career, except for listening to this podcast, is to take part in InSport Education's courses and programs. InSport Education is offering sports management podcast listeners 10% off all of their courses with the code SportsManagementPodcast10. Click the link in the description below and elevate your sports business career today. Today's guest is Bruno Costa, the head of scouting and players recruitment for the MLS team San Jose Earthquakes. As a Brazilian, football has been like a religion to Bruno and something he has played and worked in most of his life. He has scouted world-class players like Neymar, Philippe, Coutinho and Gabriel Jesus, to name a few, and is now helping the Quakes in MLS to find talent. Get ready to learn what it takes to be a football scout, his 5 steps to find talent, what Messi will mean for the league, the importance of being kind, entering the industry for the right reasons, and much more. This was really a heartfelt interview. Bruno was open and shared his experiences, emotions, skills, and tips. So get ready. Here is Bruno Costa. Bruno Costa, welcome to Sports Management Podcast.
Well, my pleasure. Thanks for the invitation. It's going to be a good time to go over, a little bit about my history and also talk about Major League Soccer, about MLS, and everybody's excited now that Messi is coming to the league. So there's a lot of things to talk about.
Exactly, so much to talk about. And starting with your role, you are the head of scouting and player recruitment at San Jose Earthquakes, an MLS soccer team, so MLS team. So can you tell us a little bit about this role and what you do?
Yes, I'm from Brazil, so I've been on the game for more than 24 years. I worked for the Brazil national team for 10 years. As also as a chief scout for the youth national teams and also manager of football operations for the youth national teams. I was academy director and technical director for Fluminense Football Club, one of the top clubs in Brazil for 4 years. And in 2016, I came back to America. I played college soccer. I went to university and high school here. So I always had the desire to come back, to the US. To participate in the growing up the league, growing up MLS. So my role in the club, is mostly responsible to analyze the market, participating in the recruitment process of the players from the academy to the second team, up to the first team, have a close relations with sport directors and chief scouts from other clubs. Travel, all over the world to check for the best opportunities, have a relation, of course, with the market, with the agents to understand which opportunities are out there, work side by side with the club analytical department. We know how much the analytical part is important also today, not only in soccer and football, but also in sport in general. So I'm the link between all those dots to bring the best information, to our sport director and also our technical staff, so we can make the best decision, when to sign a player to the first team, and also work side by side with our methodology department, mostly for the academy side, to bring the best players profile, that fits our game model, so we can also be able to bring good players from our academy to the first team.
Really interesting. And talking about the scouting process, you mentioned analytics. So how much is analytics? How much is gut feeling or goal scoring? Or how do you evaluate the player? I know that you have 5 steps usually that you follow.
Marcos, as I said, we all live in a new era, and it's very important to mix it up and bring together all the best informations. Of course, it's impossible to filter and to go over, all the 100 plus, worldwide leagues, football leagues, soccer leagues that we have it. So it's important for me as a chief scout to use my experience, to use, my knowledge of the game and subjectively be able to analyze certain points that data cannot cover, like the human aspects of the player, movements on and off the ball, body language of the player, the reaction of the player when he's playing under pressure, when you are in the stadium and lively and you are able to have a full view of the field, helps you to bring those information inside the club, work, the subjective information side by side with the analytical information, put those things together so we can make the best decision for the club. And being working and being involved on those processes for the last years has made myself a better professional for sure, and also made me grow, inside my role. And also I was able to see that everything in life, it's a balance, right? It's not only a lot of people are critical, about the analytical part, they don't believe too much, they're a lot about, this, I believe in my eyes, I do believe in my eyes. And when those situations happen, we sit together, we discuss why, myself, why do I have that opinion? And when you have a group of people that knows how you work and understand every process that you have, it makes things much easier. So everything in life, like in a sport organization, is about process. When you have process in place, things becomes much easier.
Of course. And I mean, you have been involved in scouting and recruiting top level players, Neymar, Coutinho, Gabriel Jesus, and many more. So what would you say is the key to your success?
Marcos, soccer, football in Brazil is a religion, right? And I was born with the game. My granddad, my dad. The first thing that I get, and the first clothes that I had when I left the hospital when I was born, maternity was a football jersey. So that's also important to have passion for what you do and prepare yourself, right? So when I was 15 years old, I was born in a small city up north in Brazil in the Amazon area. In 1995, I was only 15, and I told my parents, look, I want to go, I want to live, I want to grow, and there is an opportunity to go to America. And I didn't speak English. Of course, in Brazil, I speak Portuguese. I didn't speak Spanish. Brazil is the only country, in South America that speaks Portuguese. All the other countries, Argentina, Uruguay, Colombia, Venezuela, Peru, Bolivia, Ecuador, Chile, they all speak Spanish. So when I came to America for the first time, I was able to get an education, to learn how to speak English, to learn a different culture, keep being involved in the game, and start developing all other parts of myself. I also, I used to play with a lot of Latino speakers, Spanish speakers. I also learned how to speak Spanish. So all those things helped me out a lot when I went back to Brazil in 2001 at 21 years old. And I applied for a job in the Brazilian Federation because speaking English and speaking Spanish back then was a difference maker for me. And why? When you go to play the South American Championship, when you travel to the Brazil national team, you must know how to speak Spanish in South America. When you travel to Europe, when you travel to other parts of the world, it's fundamental to speak English. So being so young, was helped me to develop those parts of myself, and also be able to watch so many good players coming in the pipeline, and working for the national team gave me the opportunity to be outside, to be out there, and watching players such as you said, as you mentioned, like Philippe Coutinho when he was 12, 11 years old, Neymar, Marcelo, left back, he played for Real Madrid, Thiago Silva, Gabriel Jesus, Wina, many other players. So participating in the recruitment process of those players, to the Brazil youth national teams when they were 12, 13, 14 years old, kind of establish a benchmark inside my head on players' profile, players who succeed, and also a lot of good players that didn't succeed. Why those players didn't succeed, and why other players who are not as gifted technically as even Neymar or Coutinho, why they didn't make it, and why those players, as you mentioned, made it, right? So we know social aspects, family, tech coaching, there's many reasons, environment, there is a lot of things that we start learning through those processes that helped myself today after 23 years working in the game, to have a smell, in Brazil, we joke about it and we say it's important for a sporting director, for chief scout, for academy director to smell the grass, right? So the pandemic kind of took those interrelations, out of ourselves, right? So that's something I never lost. And it's very important. And that's advice that I give to everyone who want to enter the game, the business, is go out there, watch U11, watch U13, U14, U15, U17. Watch as many games as you can, to start creating benchmark, travel a lot, do a lot of networking. So, there is so many things we're going to do. And then we start polishing yourself, through the process, to become who I am today.
You said when you talked about Neymar and the other players that you scouted them at, 12, 13, 14 years old. It's difficult, I guess, because in that age, of course, you see if someone is really skilled, but you also need to have, you need to work really hard. You need to have the right mindset. And a 12-year-old is not fully developed. And also maybe someone is a late bloomer and they don't bloom until they are 15, 16, 17. So how are you working with that? Are you also following up with some players that at 12 years old, you thought that this player doesn't really have it yet, but you follow up a few years later? Or how are we working around that?
Oh, very, very good question. Like when you see players like the players that I mentioned here, I'm going to give an example like of the new generation. Vinicius Jr., Rodrigo, Neymar, Coutinho, even Marcelo, those players are 12, 13 years old. They're really different. Technically, physically, their decision-making, everything about those players, they were different. Then you have players like, I'm going to give another example. 2000, I'll never forget, 2003, 2002, we had a tournament with a U18 national team. You probably know the Milk Cup. It was a tournament in North Ireland. And we called players born in 1985 for this tournament. That was in 2002 to 2003. And we went to Atlético Paranaense to see some players. And one of the players got our attention, right? He was kind of a late bloomer, but he could see his fly. That was Fernandinho. So we called Fernandinho, to the national team. He did pretty well. He used to be a number 10, number 8. Right? And now it's also important, Marcos, when you see a player, to analyze and see which profile this player has it and if he can succeed in other positions. Right? And Fernandinho used to play as a right back. He used to play as a number 8. And Guardiola, when he played for Manchester City, he became his number, his holding midfielder, the guy that played in front of the defense, so he was kind of a late bloomer, right? He was a player that didn't have, Bruno Guimarães, that plays for Newcastle right now. Bruno Guimarães was a player that played for a small club in Brazil, never got a call for the youth national team. Suddenly he blossomed and 20, 21 years old, he started playing, But most of the top players that I have followed, like I'm talking about the top ones, Ronaldinho Gaúcho, As I said, those players, they've been part of all the youth development process in the youth national teams. And there were players that at a younger age, you could see already very different.
Interesting. Yeah, as we have said now, you work in MLS, you work at the Quakes in San Jose. It's a really, really interesting time for soccer in the US. I mean, you're from Brazil, you said it's religion. Football is religion in Brazil. Everyone in Europe has lived with this sport for years. It's the biggest sport all over Europe. Now, finally, the Americans are also realizing that this is a fantastic sport. We are doing this interview on June 8th, and very recently they were saying now that Messi is coming to MLS. So can you speak a little bit about the interest for soccer in the US and what you think that the Messi's move will mean for the league?
Because you know how big is the immigration to America, to US? It's a country with 325 million people. It's a country with 50 states. Every state, it's the same thing as you have. It's the same thing as you take California and bring Spain to California. Take Florida and bring France to Florida. So every state is an European country on size, of population, on everything. And also we have different weather, different immigrations. If you're like in California, you have a lot of California, a lot of Mexicans, Central America, Latin America immigration. If you go to Texas, the same thing. If you go to Central America, more to north, you have a lot of European immigration, Poland, Ukraine, Europe in general, Germany, Italy, whatever. So one thing that will happen in America is different players profile. So when you have different players profile, athletes, if you're able to bring those players at a younger age, show them about the game, introduce them to football, to soccer, then you're going to be able to develop players with different technical and physical abilities, also cognitive abilities, because it's important also to understand the game. So that's why US it's a unique country, right? Different from India, from China, from other countries, with a huge population, even Russia, when there is not as much mix of race, that brings a lot of benefits when you talk about athletes profile. US now, the 1994 World Cup was already a benchmark after the World Cup. The new generation of Americans who are now, 35, 40, 45 years old, all that generation that saw the beginning of MLS, they're becoming parents now. So the new generation that is coming up right now, my son, who is 3 years old and was born here, the son of the immigrants that came here that loves the game, they're going to see the World Cup in 2026 happen here again. They're seeing Messi coming to the league right now, and who is, Messi, who is, the best player from, when they were, for the new generation. So all those aspects of the game, the growing of the league, MLS was the league that had 10 clubs in 2010. Nowadays, we have 29 clubs, and by 2025, we're going to have 30 clubs. So it's a huge growing. When you just saw the US U20 national team reach the quarterfinal of the U20 World Cup, the US national team that played the Qatar World Cup had the lowest average age of the World Cup. So all of those things, the new Apple deal with MLS, Apple 10-year deal with MLS. I mean, there is a lot of good things happening around the league that, that's for sure MLS in a very short term, will be a top 5 league in the world.
If we talk more specifically about Messi, his team now that, I don't know if it's finalized yet, but he went out and said at least that he's going. But millions of followers to that team right away. He has, I think, the largest or one of the largest social media followings in the world among all people. So, this for exposure is huge for the club, the league, the country.
Huge. And of course, people don't realize that Brazilian, we joke a lot about, there is a big rivalry between Brazil and Argentina, but that's the beauty. Brazil would not be Brazil if it was without Argentina. And Argentina wouldn't be Argentina without Brazil. Same thing with Uruguay also. Who is doing pretty well, now semi-final of the U20 World Cup. I'm someone that always see the positive side. And Messi is an idol for everyone. Messi is an example inside and outside the field. He's a family guy. He's an amazing player. He's, as you said, he's one of the, he's one of the most followed, sports person athletes in the world. And he's still playing at a high level. And I believe he's even going to be able to play the 2026 World Cup here in America. We have the Copa America coming to America next year, 2024. So he's going to be in Florida, who is a very Latino state. A lot of Colombians, Brazilians, Argentinians. It's a huge Latino community. So, there is only benefits for the league. About, Messi's view. And, as you said, the league hasn't made 100% official yet, but everything, all the information out there, Messi statement yesterday, was saying that there is little details to finish it up, but it's going to be amazing. It's going to be unbelievable for everyone who's been working in MLS right now, and in America in general, football in America.
Yeah, I'm sure. And as you said, World Cup is coming back, and National Women's Soccer League is also really strong. So the sport at large in the States is just on a huge rise.
Huge. The Bay Area, where we play, our club is located in San Jose, California. It's in the Silicon Valley. So we are in one of the, it's the most high-tech area in the world. We have all the, Tesla is here. Stanford University, Apple, Netflix, Yahoo. Everything that I'm talking about, about technologies over here. So it's we're going to have also models as a club, but the area is going to have a new women's team coming up next year. That's also huge for Northern California. California is a state with more than 45 million people, so it's just huge. It's the biggest and the richest state in America. And San Diego coming to the league in 2025. California is going to be the only state in MLS with 4 clubs. So you're going to have San Jose, Northern California, both LA teams, LA Galaxy and LAFC, and South California, San Diego.
That's great. Yeah, you mentioned 1994 also, the World Cup. That was, for a Swedish person, that was the last time we actually won something. We took third prize, and that's what we have done in 30 years. So Swedish people look back on that World Cup with good memories.
Yeah, and as a Brazilian, we had great memories against Sweden. I played twice in the group stage and also in the semi-final. So, I'm passionate for the Swedish football. I think, Scandinavian football in general, Norway, Denmark, Sweden, Finland, that's it's also a place, a league that we follow a lot. It's a league that MLS, it's a cap league, so we need to manage it pretty smartly, our salary cap, how we manage things. So Swedish league is a league that also sends a lot of players to MLS. So that's whenever I come down to Sweden, I'll let you know. So we have the pleasure to meet each other personally.
Yes, I would love that. Please do. And that also brings up an interesting point because, you say you are Brazilian and many of the players that you have scouted have been from Brazil. But how much in your current role are you looking abroad in Europe and in South America and other places?
A lot. In San Jose, we have 13 different nationalities only in our team. We have players from Brazil, Argentina, France. We had a Swedish. Magnus Eriksson was here before. We had Mexicans, Panamanians, Guinea Equatorial, Burkina Faso, Ghana, Cape Verde. So we have players from all over the world. MLS, that's a very good status to give to you guys. MLS has players from 81 different nationalities. 81. So it's huge. We track more than 35 leagues, 40 leagues all over the world. I was in Argentina now watching the U20 World Cup. I went to Uruguay. Usually I go to Europe also to go and meet people, talk about opportunities. I'm someone who has been, I have been to more than 55 countries already in my life. So it's important on my position, on my role, being a football person, to be able to go out there and understand the market. So when I go to Ghana, when I go to Nigeria, when I go to Morocco, when I go to Spain, Portugal, Scandinavia, I know the people. I know how to get the right information. I know, how to manage myself inside those markets. And going back to what I said before, this is why it's so important to be able to speak different language and to also communicate with people.
Yeah, for sure. 55 countries, that's quite a lot. And I'm sure you're traveling a lot. And I know you were recently in Hungary for the Football Forum 2023. Were you a speaker, or was it a networking event or scouting, or what was the occasion?
Yes, I was invited to be one of the guest speakers of the event, and it's very important. It's a different market also. It's, in Europe, that's a market where you get, Croatia, Hungary, Czech Republic, Serbia, Slovenia, even Turkey, Ukraine. I mean, that's why it's important to have yourself, and it's my role inside the club to be able to move around, to bring the most clear information to the club, source, sporting director, along, with your technical staff. They can make the best decision, when you bring a player, and we have the most clean information also. And that's something that I'm passionate on doing. That's something that I've been doing for a long time. And that's the value that you have it, that is immeasurable, right? Because when you bring the right information about a player, you're saving millions and millions of dollars to the club, and you also are able to bring a player that maybe if you didn't know the right person, didn't know the sporting director from his former club, or didn't know his agent, or didn't know the person who can get the deal done. If you didn't put yourself out there to meet those people, you're not able to get those deals done. So that's why it's so important on my business to be traveling around and also showing, the work you've been doing inside the club.
Yeah, I mean, one could argue that you have one of the most important roles for the club. I mean, if you pick the wrong players, then the team will not perform. Then maybe sponsors will not be as interested. You will not get the money that comes with winning the league, or, it trickles down to so many other things. So it's a really important role that you have.
100%. And that's why the role of the chief scout has become so important, inside our football organization. And I have been a sporting director before. I have been an academy director. I have been a technical director. And I have been a chief scout. And all those four positions, they are linked to each other, right? As a sporting director, you must know technically about the game, you must know about players, you must know about the market. As an academy director, polish myself as an academy person, as someone who knows about youth development. As a technical director, you got to know about, game audio, about, training, about all the aspects of the game. And as a chief scout, you're able to manage all those information, put it together, use your networking, and be able to, to be someone who is valuable for the market. And that's something very important, to be valuable to the market and put yourself as someone valuable to your organization also.
If someone is listening now, they're a young person interested to do what you do, what is your best advice in order to build a career to be a scout?
As I said, it's like a university, Marcos. When you go to university, like in America, you only going to choose your pathway or your major after 2 years, right? So when I entered the national team, I was very, as I said, in life, a lot of people, they have the opportunity, but they're not ready to embrace that opportunity, right? So when I had the opportunity, I was very young, but I was so passionate. I was 24/7 about the game. I was studying, reading, my first job in the national team was as a manager of operations. I had to organize camps. I had to kick out clubs, start connecting with players, coaches, clubs. And naturally, we didn't have a scouting department as organized 22, 23 years ago. So when my coach used to go to visit clubs, I was out with my coach. And then we start developing yourself on the technical side. Then when you become, so I think you should, my advice is navigate it, in as much different roles as you can. Then you're going to start finding yourself, where you're going to fit better. That's what happened to me.
That's great. And I read the quote that you said. I think that it's really powerful. And it was, quote, "It is about passion, the love for what you do. Don't corrupt yourself. There's a lot of things in football. Just be yourself with a work ethic. Be someone that's going to be a role model for others." That's what pushed me up. I wanted to be a role model. There is no right and wrong. I just try to be who I am. In the end, it's not about money. It's about what I love, helping other people. End quote. That's really powerful.
You got me on that one. I get emotional, man, because it is. Because what happened, Marcus? You see so many people getting the game now for the money, for the status, to be on the media, So what I try to do is, I came from a small town north in Brazil, Rondônia State. It's one of the smallest states in Brazil. It's right on the, Amazon, and coming from where I came from and be where I am today, I already feel myself as a winner, going through. So what is the legacy that I can live? I became a dad 2.5 years ago, and I have always been a dad for other kids, other children, people, right? Because when you work in a club, the youth development, even when you talk with your 21, 22, 23 years old, whatever, you kind of advising them the right thing to do. You're advising them, you like becoming their dad, their old brother and everything. And this human relation, for me, it's the most important thing for me, right? And in the game, there is so much money involved that if you don't find yourself in the right pathway, you're gonna have a lot of opportunity to get yourself corrupted, to get yourself the wrong way, to get yourself doing things that you shouldn't be doing, right? So carrying this with me was a flag that I have always carried to myself, of credibility, of character, be someone, a role model, not only for people outside. And one of the most important things that I did, that I carried myself when I decided to move back to America, was to open up the market to the Brazilian professional. Because Brazil always exported good players. And everybody asks why Brazil doesn't have a coach in the top, why Brazil doesn't have a match. So carrying this flag as a Brazilian was something that I carried to be able to come to a league, to an organized league, to a country where process and organization are very established, and be able to become a role model to people back to my home country, people back to South America, and also people, people over the world. So when I do my speech, when I'm in a forum, I like to speak a lot. This is why leakage for me, it's a very, very powerful, that just happened for me. I have more than 34,000 people who just follow me. Why? I start talking about MLS, I start talking about process, about the game, and became like something that organic. So for me, it's more important to have 30,000 people follow me on LinkedIn than have 1 million people following on Instagram as an example. Because it's more impactful for me to help someone to be successful on their job, to be successful in their dream. So that's what I carry in my life. And that was a very powerful quote that I carry with my, it's my flag.
I love that. It's really powerful and, empowering and helping others, as you mentioned there many times, and wanting to be a role model. Are you a mentor for someone today, or helping up and coming scouts or something along those lines?
That's another thing that just, Marcus, you're being spot on, because a lot of people start asking for mentorship suddenly, like Bruno, and I put myself on those people's shoes when I saw how I saw. And I did it. I started doing some mentoring, like some personal mentoring to like some people, and it's just unbelievable how impactful you are for some people, right? And one of the person, that I was mentoring, he had a trip with his wife, like a honeymoon trip to Italy, and he told me, Bruno, I tried to watch the Roma game against Spain, and the next game after, right after Roma lost their, we were in the final. It's all sold out. There is no way it's my dream. For the connection that I had I got him 2 tickets for him and for his wife. And he told me after that, like I was crying, like, Bruno, you changed my life. When I first met you, the words you told me, the passion that you have for the game, and be able to be here today watching Roma play in front of 62,000 people and having this opportunity, everything you've been telling me. So, as I said, Marcus, when you come to life, you got to leave a legacy. We all going to die one day. That's the only thing we know for sure. So leave a legacy, and be impactful to people's life. That's for me, that's the most important thing today.
I agree with you. And I use this podcast as a channel for this, to be able to talk to people like yourself and share. I'm really, lucky to have this, that I get to talk to people like you and pick your brain. And now I hope that, your words can inspire someone else or help someone else, and for them to get it along in their career. And really admire what you do with everything that you said, and your ethos and your work and everything. So, really, really inspired.
Well, appreciate it. That's why it's important for people nowadays to get back the human relation, the connection between people, and that's something you don't buy this. It's natural, and you need to express yourself. When you're behind a laptop screen, when you're behind a cell phone screen, for a lot of people, it's a little bit easier to communicate or to show themselves. But when you are face to face, when you you have to stand up in front of 800 people, 1,000 people, and speak up, or sit face to face with a CEO from a company. You sit face to face with your head coach, and that's something that I carry for myself. You can bring Gianni Infantino, you can bring Barack Obama, you can bring, any person in front of me. I'm going to be able to sit and talk and face to face discuss about it and everything. So when you have this confidence, when you believe in yourself, and you're able to express yourself, you're gonna just skyrocket, just go up.
We have talked about soccer, and we mentioned Messi, and that you are Brazilian. And I mean, I have to ask, who is the best soccer player of all time?
Well, I don't put it Pelé, because Pelé was a god, right? So I think Pelé is for people who I speak to my dad a lot. My dad watched him a lot. My granddad, who played the game. Pelé did something that everyone is doing nowadays. Back in the days, he was physically strong. He could header. He could use his left. He could use his right. He was good 1v1. He was able to defend. I mean, he was a complete player, right? And he became a reference, for everyone. So of course, you had an amazing players like, Di Stefano. Then you had, you had Maradona. You had Messi. You had Zico. You had Puskas, who was, in Hungary. Then you had Eusebio in Portugal. You had so many great players, in Italy back then. So every player, they established themselves as an icon, Cristiano Ronaldo in their generation. But for me, of course, putting passion aside, and listening to and watching videos also nowadays, I think Pelé was, he was in the past for everybody. He had a little bit of Romario, a little bit of Messi, Maradona, and Cristiano Ronaldo. I mean, he had a little bit of everything.
Legend, for sure.
Yeah.
Is there anything that I haven't asked you yet that you want to mention?
I think it was a very hard open, podcast, very hard open interview. I was myself, like I always be, and people that don't know me, I have I have a 3 hours class that I'm going to do to a Columbia University in 3 hours. Like about, I like to, as I said, I like to impact people. And I have my class, I have everything, but I don't like to prepare myself when I go to those things like I did here. I like to be myself and I let things happen and things flow, right? Because when you prepare yourself too much, things became too mechanic, right? And I don't like to be a mechanic person. So, and that's who I am. If you're gonna have a chance to meet personally, and you're gonna see that's the same Bruno that are meeting here. The people who are gonna have to watch the podcast, they can, I authorize it to give my Instagram. It's Bruno Costa 80, Bruno Costa 80. My LinkedIn also, Bruno Costa, head of starting recruitment, Quakes, it's easy to find me there. Also my Twitter, Bruno Costa 1111. So I'm always open to change ideas, to talk to people, to be able to, to mentor some, the right person, of course. I think we cover everything, and I'm open, in the near future to, be able to talk to you again and be able to go over, on a future podcast, we can go over and cover other topics going forward. No problem.
I love that. And I appreciate you have been open, you have been honest, you have been emotional, you have been, telling us all about your work and your knowledge. So it's highly appreciated. The last question that I ask everyone on this podcast is there someone from your network that you think would be a good guest for this podcast?
But Branco is he's the youth coordinator for the Brazil national team. He was my mentor when I started. And Branco was the 1994 World Cup winner, left back to the Brazil national team. He's like someone who mentored me and also became a role model for me when I started. João Paulo, it's the academy director from Palmeiras, who is one of the top academies nowadays in the world, the top academy in Brazil. He's been doing an amazing job for the last 7-8 years. Caio Zanardi, we worked together in the Brazil U17 national team. He's coaching in the Emirates right now. He used to coach Al Nasser. He's the only Brazilian coach nowadays in Emirates. So I think those are, as you see, I like to push in and carry people from my home country because it's important to show that Brazil has a lot of good professionals out there also.
Definitely. And I would love to speak to any of these people that you mentioned. Bruno Costa, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the Sports Management Podcast.
My pleasure, Marcus. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Sports Management Podcast. Please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. Also, feel free to leave a comment about what you thought about this episode. If you want to get in contact with me, send an email to sportsmpodcast@gmail.com or hit me up on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram @sportmpodcast.